Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down the central claims of a source document called the Scientific Indictment, and we're zeroing in on its really unsettling chapter about the Clintons. Right from the jump, the document opens with this really provocative idea. It's framing its whole analysis not as some conspiracy theory, but as a forensic investigation. So, let's dive into the evidence it presents. Okay, so to really get what this document is arguing, we have to understand its key terms first. It starts with this idea of a hidden power structure, run by these beings it calls archons. And the document calls its own central thesis the Gnostic Indictment. So basically, it's viewing all these world events through this very specific and pretty wild lens. So here's the game plan for today. We're going to start with the big picture theory, then we'll see how the document applies all that to a very specific case file. All right, first up, let's really get a handle on the core argument of this source material. We need to lay that foundation. You know, the document makes a really bold claim here. It says that what we see as political corruption isn't an accident. It's actually the system working exactly as it was designed to. So the big question is, how would a control system like this even maintain its power? Well, the source describes a very specific and, frankly, repeatable mechanism. The document claims the #1 tool they use is something called the intelligence honeypot. And if you want a modern example, it points directly to the Jeffrey Epstein network as a textbook case of this four-step process in action. So, according to this document, the whole point of a network like Epstein's wasn't just pleasure. It was about creating a leash, a way to control some of the most powerful people in the world and force them to push a certain agenda. Now, this is where the document takes that framework and uses it to build its central case study. The document alleges that the Clintons weren't just your average politicians. It claims they were picked out early on and promoted because they proved they were really good at managing illegal operations for a kind of shadow government. And the source points to two key things as proof. First, their supposed role back in Mena, Arkansas, and second, their well-documented extensive connections with Jeffrey Epstein. It presents these as evidence of how they fit into this larger system. Okay, this brings us to one of the most disturbing claims in the whole source document. It's something it calls the silencing protocol. The source just completely dismisses the idea of coincidence here. Instead, it looks for patterns, and it argues that all these deaths are actually a feature, not a bug, of a system that's designed to protect its managers at all costs. Now, what's so fascinating about this slide is how the source presents these cases. It doesn't see them as isolated tragedies. It sees them as a repeating signature, a coordinated purge of people who became liabilities. It argues these individuals were like broken nodes in a network that just had to be cut off to protect the whole operation. And finally, the source argues that the system protects these managers through something it calls the sovereign exception. Let's see how this builds. And the document points to this number, 33,000. That's the number of emails that Hillary Clinton's team permanently destroyed after Congress had already subpoenaed them. And this, right here, perfectly illustrates the source's argument about a two-tiered system of justice. You've got the public story, and then you have what it alleges was a coordinated cover-up. The source claims that destroying those emails was absolutely necessary to hide what was really going on with the Clinton Foundation, and it cites the whole Uranium 1 deal as a prime example. So the bottom line, according to this document, is that the managers of this alleged prison are totally immune to the very laws that are designed for the rest of us, the prisoners. Ultimately, the Gnostic Indictment leaves you with this one final big question. It's suggesting that maybe all these patterns it's identified aren't hidden at all, but are evidence of a system that's been operating right out in plain sight the whole time.